Hi guys. I think everything worked. I think we're here. So here we are today. I just started a print that we're going to do today, and I'll go ahead and try to show you what that is. Oops, wrong screen. If you remember before, I'd been making War Machine tokens, and we're going to do a large one of these. It's a fairly simple print. I think it's about 30 millimeters around with just a little bit of inlay detail in the face. And like the description of the stream and stuff says, we're using the Proto-Pasta polishable stainless steel filament today. And you can see I just moments ago started the print. And we're actually doing something that they don't recommend. They recommend 0.4 millimeter as like the smallest nozzle diameter to use with this filament, and we're actually printing with the 0.3 because I've been wondering if it'll extrude okay. In the little bit of purging and stuff that I did, it seemed okay. Like when I loaded the filament and stuff, I extruded, I don't know, 8 or 10 inches, and it seemed to extrude just fine. And I think part of that is that I still haven't got the video for this done yet, but all the nozzles I've been using, I've seasoned with cooking oil, and it helps with the extrusion consistency and smoothness a bit. And I'm hoping that that's enough to get away with a smaller nozzle for this filament. But I guess we are going to find out together. Dawn asked, I swapped for a hardened head. I did not. These are all just regular brass nozzles from the little fun pack that I got from E3D. They just happen to be a smaller diameter. So they do suggest, again, we're kind of doing what they recommend you don't do. They do suggest that you use a hardened nozzle, but we're just using the brass ones because I'm going to be doing very small prints. I'm not going to be doing a lot of printing with this filament. I think I only have is it 200 grams? Maybe it was 50 grams. I don't know. I don't have like a full roll of this. I just have like some of the samples that you can get from Proto-Pasta for about $4. So hopefully it's not enough to actually corrode my nozzle or wear it out or anything. The little bit of communication I've had with other people that printed with this, they said it really wasn't a problem. Like, Joel was in chat, I think, last week, and he printed almost a full roll. I think he had like a 2 kilogram roll, and he said he didn't actually notice any wear on his nozzle, so hopefully we'll be fine. I'm going to check this. I just want to make sure. I want to keep an eye on it. But it seems to be extruding just fine. The one thing I did do different with this print, I had it out here, but I knocked it off my table as I was starting. I did do some of these coins in the rustable iron. I know you really can't see that, but this is the same print, just a little bit smaller. I think this is at a 120% overall size for the STL, and this is about 150. I just wanted it a little bigger. Some of these prints, like small is cool, but then like with these heavier filaments, going a little bit bigger gives it a little more weight, which makes them a little cooler. And a telephone there. This was only at 10% infill, and I'm going to print this one at 100% infill because this one has a nice weight to it, but I think printing them solid will make them feel really nice. I have the small tokens that I did last week with the rustable iron that I rusted up and corroded nicely. But when I actually went to my game group and showed them to, it was one of my friends, he was the first guy that I showed them to. I handed them to him, and he was like, "Oh, that's cool." And he said, "Did you cut these out of hardboard?" If you've ever seen that brown, like, compressed board that people use for, I don't know, hobbies and stuff. it struck me all at once that they feel and sound exactly like they are cut out of that. Like even the brownness, it kind of seems like they were stamped out of that hardboard, because the rusting was like so consistent over the face. So I wanted to try printing these at 100% infill to give them a little more weight. Dawn, let me move my screen over here. Dawn asked, what about the fumes? He's going to print ABS Pinda, an ABS Pinda cover. The fumes coming off this material are almost non-existent. It's pretty much the same as most PLAs. You know, you really don't smell much of anything. I remember when I first started printing, I used to like smell it, but I don't smell it now. I don't know if you kind of adjust. That's probably possible. But PLA is nothing like ABS. I've heard nothing but kind of bad things about printing with ABS in general. It's one of the reasons I really haven't bothered getting any. There's so many PLAs and PLA-like materials on the market that I really haven't had to venture into ABS for any of the prints that I'm doing. So, again, I have no experience with ABS, but everything I've heard from everyone I've talked to is to make sure that your area is well ventilated. If possible, make sure you have an enclosure for your printer. Otherwise, you're going to have like layer separation issues as the part cools and the layers pull apart a little bit. But no, unfortunately, I have no first-hand experience with ABS, and I'm also worried about the fumes. So it's unlikely that I'm going to be printing with ABS in the foreseeable future. If I did need any like stronger materials, I'd probably go to like a PETG or something like that, or some of the annealable PLAs. Like I said, there's so much PLA on the market. It's crazy. Aaron said he got his nozzle up to 410C last night. That's pretty hot. That's pretty hot, man. And yeah, I can imagine charring PLA does stink. All burning plastic smells pretty bad. You could print solder with that nozzle. That's true. You could probably set your machine up as like a little soldering station if you'd mess with it enough. But I know with a little bit of experimentation I did with my Dremel tool and working PLA prints, it's pretty stinky. It is pretty stinky. But it's not that kind of like, it's killing me kind of fumes, though. It just kind of smells funny. So, there's this print. It looks like it doesn't look like we have a jam or anything, so it looks like we're okay with the 0.3 millimeter. Yeah, so maybe in the future I'll press that a little farther and see if we can get down to like a 0.25 or a 0.2. Because this does, from what I've heard, this is the first I've actually printed with the stainless steel. But from what I've heard, it's very similar to the rustable iron, and it does have like metallic powder in it, but the powder is so fine that it actually extrudes quite nicely. In a little bit of printing I've done. Dawn, I can go ahead and show you guys. Dawn asked what the settings for this material were. I did work on my set. If you can tell, I worked on my setup a little bit finally. I had always meant to do that and just never got around to it. But hopefully we have subscriber alerts too. I don't know if we had any since we started, but we did have 2 people subscribe before the stream actually started, and they worked. But here you can see we have I'm sorry, I said 0.3. We're using the 0.35. That's right. It's baby steps here. I didn't want to get down to the 0.3. So I threw the 0.35 millimeter nozzle in, standard MK2 profile, retraction settings. We've discussed this before. There's all kinds of like conflicting opinions about extrusion width, and I've had the best experience just using an extrusion width that's the same as the nozzle diameter, which is, to me, a little bit counterintuitive. Like with a 0.35 millimeter nozzle, I would assume, if you can envision like the material coming out and kind of squashing out a little bit, like I would assume we should be at probably like a 0.38 or a 0.39 for our extrusion width, but it doesn't seem to be the case. 0.15 layer height, we're a little light on top and bottom layers, but for this, we're going to be sanding the top and bottom a little bit and kind of working the surface, so we're not really worried about the overall finish. You can see fairly standard infill settings, the only difference being that we're at 100% infill, which is a little out of the ordinary. No support, standard temperature, 60 on the bed, 200 for the first layer, 190 for everything else. Cooling standard, speed standard, and nothing too special beyond that. And you can see this is a fairly fast print. It's only going to take about 21 minutes, and we're already 13 minutes into the print, so. Andre said, I can subscribe again. It's one of those things, like years ago I used to stream a little bit of gameplay on Twitch, and like I'm familiar with all this stuff. Streaming's just a little weird. Like you can set up like a second channel and do your testing on there, but I haven't actually taken it to that point, so it's always a little awkward testing your settings because you have to actually stream. You can try to do like recording your hard disk and test things that way, but it's not quite the same. So hopefully everything works. And I don't have a sound. I know a lot of people use a sound for their subscriber alert, but it can be a little obnoxious depending on how things are moving along. Don said, cool, thanks. This info is gold. Yeah, there's, especially, like, I print mostly PLAs and kind of PLA-derived materials, so once you kind of get a ballpark for most of your settings for, like, a given nozzle and stuff, they don't change a whole lot. Yeah, Andre. I know only a couple of you are probably aware of this, but yesterday I was sitting here getting some of my settings tweaked for the stream and stuff, and somehow, it was kind of terrifying, somehow OBS started streaming and streamed me for about 19 minutes, and I was completely unaware of it. And it was kind of terrifying, because I had to think back. I was like, oh my god, what have I been doing for the last 19 minutes? Like, it's good I wasn't watching porn or anything, like, wildly inappropriate, because I even went back and checked OBS's logs, and it had no records of uploading anything, but yet, apparently when I installed the new version of OBS, and apparently as soon as I started it the first time, it started streaming and ran for about 19 minutes. Because I was setting my chat up so it shows the chat in the stream, and I noticed that not only I didn't notice people talking, I noticed that people had been talking for a little while, and I was like, what the hell? I thought maybe it was like test text that they do so you can like have something in the window to help you set it up, and then I was like, well, this is kind of directly relevant to me. I was like, oh shit. But even then I went into OBS and I wasn't streaming, so I just like shut it down and restarted it. It seems like it was okay. I don't know what happened. That was kind of weird. Like I said, luckily I wasn't doing anything inappropriate. But yeah, that was kind of scary. That was some Skynet stuff, like Dawn said. The only thing I do notice is, there's some images there that aren't displaying correctly in the chat. I'm not sure what that is. I guess it's, I guess the emotes aren't showing correctly for some reason. Not sure what that is. But I'm sure there's some tweaking that'll need done. But I just wanted to, if anybody's watched my streams before, there's this kind of weird disconnect where I'll be like responding to people and the chat isn't visible in the stream, so you might not necessarily know exactly why I'm saying the things I'm saying. And hopefully this will help with that and make these a little bit more tolerable to watch in hindsight, or like after the stream's over. Get a cam cover next time. I actually have one. The main camera here, the C930E, has a little like flippy door on the lens, but yeah, I normally don't close it because I haven't ever had any problems like that. So I might try to make a habit of closing that now. Yeah, it looks like some of the emojis have a bit of an issue, but yeah, it's all like the chat and stuff. Yeah, there's so much room for tweaking and options and stuff, and there's so many like options as far as like the way you go about getting the chat on your stream. Because at some point here, I've had enough people like asking me about streaming on Twitch that I'm probably gonna start like putting the stream out to Twitch and YouTube, and like when you do that, like we'll have the YouTube chat here, but it's funny, Aaron, that one shows up, the little ice cream cone or whatever, but some of the smiley faces are not showing up properly. But the nice thing is this is already set up, so when I do start streaming on Twitch and YouTube simultaneously, that the Twitch chat will also show up in the window here. So anybody watching, like it'll probably get to the point where you'll probably just like ignore this YouTube chat and actually watch the chat on the stream, because it'll all be like unified. But get rid of the border, Nilla, but it makes it look nice. Need more screen estate, eh? But like I said, it's all if you've ever done this, it's all like a huge compromise with everything. That's why you'll see like everybody that streams it's slightly different. But it looks like our prints, it's getting there. I don't know what it is with the other nozzle diameters, but the percentage complete on the MK2 doesn't really handle the different nozzles all that well for some reason. For instance, a print I did the other day, it was supposed to take about 9 hours and ended up taking like 11 and a half. Derek asked what nozzle size we're using. See, I should have a window up here that has like our print settings for the current print. Talk about screen estate. We're using the 0.35 for this. And like I mentioned earlier, they don't recommend using smaller than a 0.4, but I wanted to try it out because this extrudes really nicely. So I have a feeling it's going to be okay. But yeah, Aaron, did you get the tungsten nozzle? If you get your hot end too hot, you might start stressing that brass. Put them in the description. Yeah, I could do that. I could do that, Doofenberger. Like I said, there's always room for improvement around here. But like Aaron mentioned before, they got his hot end up to 410 degrees, which I assume means you got your thermocouple and the PT100 and everything installed. Are there any materials where that's really advantageous? Is there anything that actually prints at 410 degrees? I would kind of worry that, can the heat bed take that? Will that actually damage the PEI or anything? I don't know what the high-end temperature tolerance for that stuff actually is. You notice all those NESs up top? Have you done some modding? I have modded a ton of NESs, but the problem was, I actually haven't checked in about 2 months, but the problem with the HDMI mods was that the few people that actually made those boards for the mods, because you need to, it's kind of complicated compared to most like console mods. The HDMI mods actually have like a separate sub-processing board and stuff. You need to jump into that 72-pin chip. The problem was the two different guys that make those boards were back ordered for like months, and I wasn't able to get one, and I just kind of gave up. But I do have a. Let me find it here. I don't currently have a modded HDMI NES, but I do have this thing. It's called a Retro AVS. It's a it's like a Nintendo NES hardware clone that puts out HDMI natively. And you see, I have my my flash card in here, my EverDrive, the little SD card with literally every NES game ever made, including like foreign games, some of the arcade cabinet games. Get in there. But no, I'd like to do some videos on some NES games with this because I can go right into my capture card and the video is absolutely beautiful. But I think those things are still back ordered too, even if you'd want one. You're trying TrueTech is trying to print on various types of paper. That's interesting. Sure was a quick test, but I'm curious to see how well the heat sink. Yeah, that's definitely 410 degrees is pretty hot. I also would be interested to see how well the hot end heat sink and stuff. Like Dawn said, I'd be interested to see how well the entire assembly handles that kind of temperature. Like if your heat break is actually able to keep the top end of the hot end assembly from getting hot enough to soften the filament. But no, it looks like this print is going to complete successfully. We're nearing the end. This print is... This is actually the most accurate way for me to judge how far along a print is. This print is 4.5 millimeters high, and we're at the 4.2 millimeter Z height. So we're getting finished here. And you can see, I know that it's so awkward to get like a good angle on a small print like this, but you can see it's printing nicely. Everything seems to be moving along just fine. So hopefully all is well. And as soon as this is done, we're going to sand it and see how much we can get this polished. Because I actually have, I went and got some more sandpaper. I have quite a bit of sandpaper on hand. So we should have everything we need to try to polish this up really nicely. I even have like some Brasso and stuff from cleaning game consoles and stuff. But now, Aaron, you should do some videos on the PT100 and share some of the benefits and, you know, some of the experiences you've had. I know the Rambo box, if any of you have watched like the cable chain installation, the Rambo box and stuff that Aaron made that we used already has like a nice little spot for mounting the PT100 in there. Nilla, you mentioned that you sanded your bed. What video was that info in? I don't actually recall. I think it was... I can check here for you. Like Dawn said, that was... it was 1500 grit sandpaper, and then after we sand it kind of aggressively, I was kind of soft at first, but... after we sanded it, Where's that at? It might have been the Getting Perpendicular video. I guess I should probably do a separate video of that, because that Getting Perpendicular video is like 6 hours and 43 minutes long, and it's buried in there somewhere. But yeah, we did that with 1500 grit sandpaper, hit the entire heat bed kind of aggressively, and then wiped it down with acetone, and that completely solved all the adhesion problems I had with my PEI sheet. Aaron's still waiting for me. I'm waiting too. Like I said, I tweeted out on Twitter last night. We'll let that cool for a minute. I put a tweet out last night that it looks like things are finally kind of normalizing for my schedule and stuff. So hopefully we'll really start like knocking some content out here. I'm not going to stream for a real long time today. I'm going to try to edit a little bit of the footage I have recorded already, and then record a little bit more, and get some of these videos. There's so many videos I want to do. There's so much information to share about like 3D printing, and I've just been like struggling to actually like get stuff made because of like the holidays. Yeah, I need to print. Yeah, you're right. I need to print the new Rambo case. Do I really need to print the X carriage again? Because I'd like to not if I don't have to. I don't want to have to take that thing apart. I don't mind disassembling the Rambo and all the stuff around there. But yeah, I don't want to have to do my whole X carriage if I don't have to. Are you the only one seeing the LOL page? Oh no, I forgot to do. No, I forgot to. Yeah, I forgot to do my thumbnail. I have to do that afterwards. Dawn said he did the kitchen sponge. I tried that too, but it wasn't enough. I got a couple, and they were fairly aggressive, like the hard scrubber side, and it just wasn't enough because I did that pretty aggressively and wiped it with acetone, and it did improve things, but it wasn't really enough, especially for smaller pieces. Not even really that small. They were things that should have adhered well. But yeah, the scrubber sponge was not enough. So I did some looking, and there were several videos and forum posts that I saw where people were recommending 2,000 grit sandpaper. But I just wanted to go a little more aggressive. So I got 1,500. And I think it was someone in our chat. Someone in our chat said that they used I think 320 grit sandpaper. I would not recommend that. I would not recommend that. Yeah, like Gusner said, I've seen several people recommend 2,000 grit, but 1,500 worked quite well. It's not very aggressive, so it's not like you're going to sand holes in your PEI or anything. But Sparky asks if we're still using the 0.25. No, this is the 0.35 for this. Proto-Pasta doesn't recommend that you use smaller than a 0.4 for these composite PLAs, so I wanted to try to get a little bit more detail on these small coins, but I didn't want to push it too far at first, so we just stepped down to a 0.35. And now that this seemed to be okay, I'll probably try the 0.3, and if that goes okay, I'll try the 0.25. But we'll do it in baby steps. I gotta say, this looks nice. Oh, that feels so cool. Yeah, that feels so cool. I love it. I love the weight of this this material. Let's see what this actually weighs. That weighs 5 grams, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but for something that size, that's you can definitely feel that. Yeah, that feels sweet. I had a quarter in my pocket earlier. Of course I took it out. See, I was going to weigh a quarter and see what a quarter weighs. Yeah, for some reason I felt like I had to take that out of my pocket before I streamed, so I don't have it, but... Alright, well let's get this over here. And we'll try to polish this guy up a bit. Alright. I need to get like 3 more webcams. It's like I never have enough. So here it is. Let's switch views here. So here's our coin. And you can see there's... it's why I like... where's the center? I don't know how to center things. There's a few small gaps in the face of this, but otherwise it looks nice, especially... I know it's a little tough to see, but it's why I like the concentric infill. It's a little tough to see. Let me see if I can focus this camera a little better. We can try autofocus, but it never works out. You bastard. Yeah, you can't really see, but that has concentric infill. Like, looking at it in person, it's got a nice, like, round... it's concentric. So the backside looks great. And then the front side, like I said, it looks okay, but there are a few small gaps in the face. And like, I did a lot of experimentation with the other coins that I did, and it's kind of tougher than you'd think to get rid of some of those kind of spacing artifacts. But let's see what we can do here with this thing. Holy hell, why is it so hard for me to find the center? Okay, so we're going to start with some 320 grit sandpaper. We'll start with some 320. So we've got some 320, and then we'll... I don't have a whole lot of, like, gradients, but then we'll go to the 1500. If I can find it. All right, and we got some 1500 here. But we'll start with the 320. That's kind of noisy. And we'll just sand this until we're hitting... till you can see that we're hitting everything on the surface. So we've gotten it nice and flat. Looks like we've got to get a little bit more. And then I'll just, like, reduce the pressure on this. Just push hard at first and then reduce the pressure a little bit as we get it finalized. The back doesn't need a whole lot because the back was already really flat. But there we go. It doesn't look like much now. It looks dusty more than anything. Let's kind of rub this off on the felt. And it's not really shiny yet at all. I think we can actually go a little bit more in the face. I know it's hard to see, but you can see like some of it's shiny and some of it is not yet. So we're going to go, I think there's a little bit of the surface on the face that we're actually not hitting yet. So we'll sand this a little more aggressively. We maybe could have started with a little bit coarser than 320. Yeah, we're getting there. We just want to sand this until the entire face looks uniform. Because if you've ever sanded PLA, we're not going to sand this whole piece away. This PLA is a very hard material. And this stuff definitely smells like... if you've ever been in a machine shop, it has that kind of smell like we're working metal. So it is kind of interesting. It almost smells like, if you've ever been around someone that's welding, it almost smells like that. Okay, we're getting there. We only have a couple little spots yet that aren't being hit by the sandpaper. All right, so close. We probably should have started with a maybe like a 220 or 180 grit. But this is the first I've ever done anything with this material, so We're learning together. It's getting close. There's only a few tiny little spots that we're not quite hitting with the sandpaper yet. So if you can imagine how little variance there probably was in the top layers of this, and we had to do this much sanding just to close that gap. PLA is very resistant to sanding. All right, let me go a little bit more than I would imagine I'd have to. And hopefully this will be all we need. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. And the back, I think we were already okay, but we'll, it won't hurt to hit that again. We'll just get aggressive with it. Okay, I think we're good. So we're done with the 320. Wipe a little bit of that dust off. And I think it was part of the problem I had with the Rustable was the teeth in here. They're a little bit hard to hit with sandpaper. And that's where the steel brushes that I got came in. I actually don't know where my other one is. But I have, I got this little pack of brushes that we got at Walmart. They're for, like, removing paint and stuff. And basically, I just kind of, like, grip these like this. I know it's a little hard to see. And drag them down through the teeth. And, like, with the Rustable filament, that was enough to kind of expose the metal. And you kind of have to go one way. Like, you can't really go both ways. It kind of jams your brush up. We'll just go around, and you can already see, or like I can see, I know some of that's hard to see on camera, especially with the freaking zoom, or the focus. We're giving up on the autofocus. All right, let's focus this. Is that focused? That looks reasonable, I think. But yeah, we'll just, shake everything and get in here a little bit. Like some prints, I guess you kind of have to be mindful of the overall layout of the print, because some prints are going to have problems like this where you really can't get in to some of the areas to polish them, which might be exactly what you're looking for, or it might not. So we won't worry about this too much. I'll do that on my own time. And then we've actually kind of like yellowed it for some reason. Kind of odd. I know you probably can't see that. Maybe you can. It kind of has like a gold look in the gears there. I don't know if it's, I guess it's because this is a, I guess this is brass. I don't know. Because I have a steel one, but I don't know where it is. Unfortunately, I was doing some of the Rustable iron coins the other day, and I must have taken it somewhere. All right, but let's go with this 1500 grit paper now. And we're definitely getting a shine out of this already. But I really want to push it and see just how shiny we can get this. Dion said wet sand it as the last step. This is definitely getting shiny. I wish I had some of the 2000 grit paper now. Yeah, like Dawn said, I think the brass is transferring into the metal, so that might not be ideal for this. Unless you want it. I mean, it does look kind of cool. I mean, it's something to think about because it still looks very metallic, but it's kind of got like a gold sheen. And like, I'd imagine if you would actually devote some time to really like getting aggressive with this thing, you could probably get some pretty cool finishes. if you would want something like that. It's one of the things I like about some of these unique materials is they give you so many options that you don't otherwise have with like some of the standard filaments. And, you know, some of them aren't things that you'd really think about at first. All right, so let's get a couple more seconds here. That is definitely polishing up. I know, like everything, it doesn't really translate all that well on camera. But in person, that's very shiny already. And it definitely looks metallic. So let's hit the back a little bit. Thanks, Dion. Dion said he likes the new video layout. Yeah, that was my goal. It's been a problem I know we've had since I started streaming, is that people who watch everything after the stream is actually over, there's a weird kind of disconnect where they can't see what's being said. All they have is like me responding to people. So it's kind of like listening in on a phone conversation and only hearing one side of it. The stainless is harder than the brass. Yeah. I think it would be really cool to, like if you had a dual extruding machine, or maybe even the Prusa multi-material upgrade, to see the kind of things you might be able to do with this filament and the rustable iron. Make some counterfeit coins. I wouldn't dabble with that. I remember years ago when we got our first, you can tell how long ago that was, we got our first bubble jet printer. All my dad did for like the first week we had it was print dollar bills. He was just like, he was convinced that he could get one close enough to actually use as a counterfeit. Like he didn't want to use them. It was just one of those like, I don't know. He set a goal for himself and he convinced himself he could do it, but it never worked. Test it for conductivity. We can do that. I have a multimeter back here. We could test it for conductivity. I was just trying to get, there was a couple spots there. I don't know if you can see them. Let me get the light right. Right here, there's like 3 little spots where it's a little less shiny than everywhere else. And I was just trying to get those if I can. But no, overall, this looks very cool already. I think I might end up using these for my tokens for my robot game instead of the rusted iron. But like I was saying, it would be cool to see what kind of things somebody could come up with. You see how shiny that is? This is very shiny. You can almost see the actual reflection of the light bulb over there. The only thing is like I wish I could get like that design that's inlaid. I wish I could get that shiny. I wish I could find my my other brush. I'll have to take a minute and look for it here. But let's get this a little bit more. Now, what were you guys recommending? That we do some actual wet sanding? You see my stupid face? It does work. That's hilarious. TrueTech said they used to photocopy $50 bills and laugh at people when they picked them up. I remember in a store in the little town I lived in here, right inside the entrance, the store owners like epoxied a quarter to the floor, and oh god, it was shocking how many people would not only stop and like, oh, a quarter, but that would just like really not give up. They were like, man, I just can't pick this thing up. I need to try a little harder. It's like your brain goes on autopilot when you see money and you're just like, I gotta get that. Yeah, like use a tumbler, Dawn. I've seen people do that. I don't really have a setup for that. I guess being that we have 3D printers, you could basically print the whole thing. All you need is like a little like drum with a gear printed on the end, and then like a cheap little motor with some batteries and stuff. You can make your own little tumbler. I remember having those as a kid. Like when I was younger, that was a big thing, like the rock tumblers. All right, that's probably all we're going to get out of that. Let me clean this up with the nylon. Get all the dust off. No, but just with these preliminary efforts, that looks pretty cool already. You can see it's definitely metallic. That's about as metallic as something could look. The only thing is, like I said, the design in there, and then like the teeth area. But oh no, that has such a cool feel. That feels like a coin for sure. But that is some cool material. It's a shame it's so expensive. This stuff is a little bit pricey. It's not insane, but that's a little pricey. But no, I wish I had several of them so I could clank them together. But no, that's very cool stuff. Now, what did you guys suggest? Like I was asking, do you think we'd get a little bit more out of it wet sanding it? I forget what someone said with yeah, epoxy a coin to the floor in the laundromat. That would be, I can't imagine how many people would just like I said, go on autopilot and just be absolutely determined to get that thing off the ground. All right, no, it definitely makes your fingers dirty, but a vibratory tumbler. See, now you're getting some advanced stuff, Dawn. Cheap. What's HF? I don't know what HF is. Did I print that, Bjorn? Yeah, we did print this with 100% infill. So yeah, this is a hefty little piece here. You can hear when I drop it that, like I said, it weighs right around 5 grams, which is pretty heavy for something this size. So, like I was asking, what did you guys suggest we should do some wet sanding? Oh, Harbor Freight. Yeah, I did. That's what I thought you meant, but I wasn't sure. Though, depending on your lot in life, like if you're like me, $70 isn't cheap. But let me take 15 seconds here and try to find my brush, and we'll see what kind of effect that has on the insides of these teeth. And we'll also get some... I have some Brasso back here, but I kind of have a feeling that the Brasso might actually be more aggressive than this 1500 grit, so I don't actually know. Does anybody happen to know what... I don't know if there is such a thing, but like what grit equivalent Brasso is to like a paper polish? I can't believe I lost that brush. Especially when it's the one I need. But anyway, we can at least try the Brasso. I do have that on hand. And I guess we can try using this microfiber cloth. That might work best. That's driving me crazy. I can't find that brush. I don't have that much space down here. I don't know where it could be. Because it's one of those kind of lost... it's a kind of lost that I not only don't know where it's at, I don't know where it could be. That's the frustrating kind of lost. But anyway, we have some Brasso here. I know when I first started refurbishing game cartridges and stuff, I used to use this. And this stuff is actually too aggressive for like polishing the contacts on games. There's a lot of people that recommend you don't use this. It's a little too aggressive. But let me switch cameras again here. We'll take a look at the before. So that's our before. You can see that's fairly shiny. You can kind of see a little bit of the marks from the paper. So we'll see what kind of effect the Brasso has on this. We won't get too crazy, but I'll try to give it a good rub here. That's what she said. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it looks a little bit shinier, kind of. I don't think it's like a world of difference or anything, but it looks a little bit shinier. I don't know. Looks about the same, honestly. I think if anything, like wet sanding with the 2000 grit would probably make the biggest difference. I don't know that the Brasso is really like that amazing. Let me wipe it off there. We'll take a look at it. I can barely notice any difference. I'm sure you guys over the webcam can't really see much difference, but I don't know. I guess it's a little bit glossier. Maybe. I don't know. I honestly don't really notice a big difference. It looks cool, but I don't really notice a big difference with the Brasso. If any Huzzah! It was laying under a piece of paper over there. All right, sweet. All right, I found my stainless brush. All right, so let's final test here. We're going to see if we can actually polish these teeth up. Because you can see they're not really shiny at all. They are dull. They kind of just look like a dull gray regular gunmetal PLA. Same with the detail in the face there. So let's do the same thing we did with the brass one. I won't do all the teeth, but we'll focus on this area in here, and we'll see if we can really polish that up at all. I'm sure we can get a little bit of sheen out of it, but I would be surprised if it really gets super glossy. But I guess just bringing it up a little bit would help. Because at the very least, like I can see that we're those edges and stuff, we're polishing those up a little bit. But the layer lines themselves, I think short of using like a Dremel or something, I don't think there's a whole lot we're going to be able to do with them. But we'll give it another 30 seconds here, and then we'll take a look at it. I can definitely tell we're polishing the edge of the teeth a little bit, which will definitely make it look a little more metallic. Because just flat sanding the surface isn't really like getting that edge shiny at all. But I think we're doing something. All right, let me wipe it off, and we'll take a look at that. So there's some of the other sides. You can see it's very dull, and then I think there is the one that we did, and you can see the little bit of sheen on the edge, which I think adds a little bit to the look. But inside itself, I don't really think we did a whole lot. So I think, you know, barring getting like some power tools or something, I don't think that's really going to do a whole lot to get the effect we want. With these surfaces, I'll go ahead and grind on this a little bit. I think on the face here, we do have a little bit of potential. Because being that that's flat in there, I think if we can just touch on that a little bit and just put a little bit of sheen on it. Don't polish your nails. I've got tough fingers. I'll be okay. If any of you have seen me use my Dremel in the past, you know that I'm not too worried about it. Now, I think we are kind of messing up the finish on the surface here, so we'll have to repolish that. I won't bother doing it, but we are getting a tiny little bit of sheen out of that face. Maybe not. I don't know. I guess not really. Maybe if we just go one direction, instead of grinding the bristles into it, maybe that'll help. But I think getting any kind of sheen out of that instead of that dull finish will really like make a difference. Yeah, I don't know. We did a little bit. You see, we actually screwed the surface up, but there's a little bit of sheen in those indents now. So I think if we just go back and where's my paper? Because we didn't do too much, so it'd probably only take a second here to get the face back to the way we had it, more or less. So note, do these those indents and features first. But then you see with our face shined back up, it's not quite where we had it before, but it helps a little bit. I think in hindsight I might have made those details a little shallower. But no, overall I think it's cool. Like I said, our face isn't as shiny as we had it to begin with, but I see it shine back up. The back still looks really nice. That's about as shiny as a PLA could get, I think. But no, very cool material. Like any of these, I think there's a lot of room for experimentation. What percentage of steel is in that filament? I have no idea, honestly. I have no idea, really. I would imagine... I don't know. I don't know what I imagine, honestly. I guess it'd be hard to put a percentage on that without actually knowing. It's got to be a slightly more than insignificant amount, because it does add quite a bit of mass to it. Like I said, this weighs 5 grams, and for a piece that small, that's a hefty little piece. I would imagine if you printed this with normal PLA, it would probably only weigh like 1.5 grams or to 2 grams maybe. So there has to be, considering the volume, there has to be a moderate amount of that metallic powder in there. But no, as far as actual numbers, I have no idea. Same with the rustable iron. And I don't know if that's something that Proto-Pasta would really put out there. But no, like TrueTech suggested, I would think if you would get a little bit of polishing compound with like a cloth wheel, with your Dremel tool, you'd probably be able to get this a little bit smoother than we have it. Maybe, I guess it depends on the polishing compound. I don't think you're going to do it with Brasso. Like I said, I think this Brasso is nearly as abrasive as this 1500 grit sandpaper is. So probably getting some wet sanding paper. Like they sell up to 2000 grit at Lowe's, like a regular home improvement store. So I think with that and a little bit of wet sanding, you could get it a little bit smoother. Or like a tumbler. Those tumblers are generally they do not have the specifics. Yeah. Lorenzo said 10 to 20. And Dawn said it is less. Oh, Dawn, I guess Dawn Googled it, and Brasso must be like approximately 100 or 1200 grit. That, from my personal experience, because I have used Brasso a lot, that seems about right. It is a little aggressive. Like if you use it on game contacts, like in game cartridges, uh, it is kind of aggressive. Like I personally don't recommend people polish games with it. It's a little bit too much, and you actually do wear the contacts a bit. Uh, so yeah, that's probably why we didn't really notice a difference between this 1500 grit and the Brasso. But no, overall that's a cool filament. It's just like the iron one. I love the mass it has. That feels so cool. I know it's something you really can't communicate through like the internet, but as far as like the hand feel of this, it's really cool. It's a really cool piece. But I wanted to actually use this for the holidays. I could easily envision like printing some Christmas ornaments and stuff out of this, and then polishing them up because they have like that dark gray kind of quality, like it would look like an antique silver almost. Uh, Lorenzo asked, could I use a hardened nozzle? Nope, it was a regular brass 0.35 millimeter nozzle. They do recommend you use a hardened one, but like I mentioned in the beginning, talking to some people that have used this, Joel, the 3D printing nerd, for instance, said that he basically printed an entire roll, and I think he had a 2 kilogram roll, which like the linear feet probably isn't all that long, but that's still a fair amount of filament. I've got a multimeter here, and we can check this for conductivity. Where are we at here? I don't know if you can hear that. It's fairly quiet, but we're going to check it for conductivity. And I have one of the iron ones here too. Let's check the iron one first. So here we have it. We have our iron piece. This is the slightly smaller one. I thought this iron one felt cool. Like it has some heft to it, but you can see this is smaller, and this is only 10% infill. So this one's quite a bit heavier. But anyway, this iron one does not appear to be conductive at all. And I kind of thought that because even with a moderate amount of the metallic stuff in it, I don't know what you'd consider it, like the intermolecular contact is pretty poor. Because if some of you have seen, they actually have conductive filaments on the market, and even some of those, like the actual conductivity is pretty poor. Like they have very high resistance, but you can see, I don't know if you can see the actual, try to do it here so you can see everything, but this thing's dusty. But you can see it's completely non-conductive. We're not even getting, even if I put the probes very close together, they're touching, but as soon as I move them apart, there is absolutely no conductivity. Which is unfortunate. I mean, it's not really what this material is intended for, but it would be cool if it had like a little bit of conductivity. Are you conductive? I don't think I am. I don't appear to be. No, I don't appear to be. If you'd use a lot of voltage, like, because obviously humans are conductive when there's a significant amount of current involved. So, I don't know, maybe if you drop a couple thousand volts into this thing, it would probably conduct. And you can see we actually did scratch the surface with those probes a bit. So, no, I'll have to... We are conductive. Oh, Dawn's lunch is over. Well, thanks for stopping by, man. I do appreciate people hanging out, especially when you're interacting with me. We are conductive even in music. You're True Tech, I gotta say, I would like to meet you in person sometime. You seem like a pretty unique person. I've seen your comments in a lot of the other 3D printing personality 3D printing personalities on YouTube. I've seen your comments in some of their chat, and you seem like the kind of person I would enjoy spending some time with. I want a gold and silver extruder. Expensive. Yeah, if you see, what was that comment? I wouldn't take the risk of a print with an expensive roll of filament failing. If you see the video that Joel did with the rustable iron, he actually printed the phone box. Oh, I can't believe I can't think of it. I've been watching Doctor Who like every day for the last month. The TARDIS. He printed a huge TARDIS out. I think it was pretty big. Probably like 8, maybe 8 or 9 inches tall, and he didn't have any problems with it. Like I said, this stuff actually, I was expecting this to be a little bit of a problematic filament, but it extrudes very nicely. You can see, like with this print we did, this was no tweaking. This is essentially like my standard PLA settings, and yeah, it extrudes really nice. Like you see on the sides here, I know it's a little tough to see because the freaking focus. Let me get it focused a little closer here. If you see where our layer lines are here on the sides, where's the focus at? That's a very clean print. It extrudes very nicely, and this is with no tweaking. And you see we got very clean, crisp edges and stuff, so... overall, I think I would not really worry too much about doing a large print with this stuff. So overall, yeah, this is a very nice filament. Like I said, a little bit pricey. I think if I'm recalling correctly, I think this is about $140 for the 2 kilogram roll, which is the best like overall rate that you can get it for as far as pricing. So it's a little bit pricey. But if you have any prints where this would fit well, I think it's money well spent. Like these. I'd say this is 5 grams. So yeah, with a 2 kilogram roll, like if I wanted to print a bunch of these, because I could easily sell these to my gaming group. Like if you do some slightly different imagery on the face and just keep this same like gear shape, there's all kinds of little like niches that you could find people that would pay, you know, relatively decent money for this stuff. Like I could see selling these for, you know, $5 to $10 a piece. Even at $5 a piece, I think. Oh, Boogie 3D says it's 200 for the 2 kilogram roll. This must be a little bit more than the iron then. Plus, I don't know if they probably don't factor shipping into that, so it's probably a little bit more for shipping. But no, very cool stuff. One last thing, we will test this to see if it's magnetic. I don't have any big magnets on hand. I do have some, but they're all packed away in boxes. But I have this stack of rare earth magnets, and you can see the iron filament is magnetic. It's not super magnetic, but it is enough to actually pick this piece up, and it sticks to the magnet relatively well. But it does not appear to be the case with the stainless. You can see the magnet is doing nothing. So we had that discussion the other day in a stream that there are apparently 2 different kinds of stainless steel. One of them is magnetic, one of them is not. And it appears like this kind is not. But you see the iron is. I guess that's why they advertise it as magnetic iron. But no, still cool stuff. These inlets are almost the same size as these magnets, so there is potential to do things. I mean, if you would want to print something out of this and have it, you know, be magnetic, you could essentially put little circle indents like that, and then epoxy some of these small rare earth magnets in there, and then if you'd get those flush with the surface and then polish it all, they probably wouldn't stand out all that much. So something to think about. You could also do Some of the cool things that I've seen people do, like imagine this isn't the top of this print, and you have a cavity there, and then you print, pause your print, put your magnets in, and then continue to print over them. Like if you had your top layers over top of this, you could embed magnets in this and kind of accomplish the same thing. That's a little more advanced. I've never done anything like that, but I have seen other people do it. It's kind of a cool technique. Leonard said $5 is, I guess you're essentially saying $5 is a little expensive for a game token. Depends on the person, man. It totally depends on the person. And like this, since STLs are fairly easy to work with, like you could pull like a file like this into Tinkercad and put a custom design on it. As soon as you're doing custom, pricing gets very different than like if you're buying something out of like a web store from like a game company or something. So it depends on the person. Like there is a guy that I play War Machine with, the game that this is for, that has they're a little bit bigger. They're probably about 50% the size of this. That came from a Kickstarter project, and I think they were about $10 a piece. And they're kind of cool because they're cast metal, but yeah. Depends on the person, depends on the application. It depends on the hobby. Like some wargamers are kind of used to paying through the teeth for stuff, so it depends on the hobby. Like I know I used to be into RC cars and RC helicopters and stuff, and it's the same with those guys. Like those guys, especially the RC heli guys, they're just used to paying through the teeth for stuff. So what you can sell some of those guys things for, compared to, you know, maybe some other hobbies that aren't quite as expensive, it just all varies. Leonard said it'd be cool seeing me try to insert magnets into a print. I'm going to stream Thursday. Maybe we could try to do that. We could try it. It would be cool to, I've always been kind of curious about how difficult that is. The nozzle shouldn't lift the magnet because they're brass. So they are not magnetic. I guess you do have the surface tension of the filament. It could potentially, like when it goes over top the magnet with filament, it could potentially like pull it a little bit. But I think if you'd make your cavity the right size, where it might be like a little bit of a press fit for the magnet, I think it's doable. Maybe we'll try that. Maybe I'll take one of these like gear shapes, simplify it a little bit with a cavity in the middle, and we'll see if we can do that. So yeah, if anybody wants to join me Thursday, we'll be here at what I guess I started at 12 today. I was going to say same time, but not the same time. It'll be 10 a.m. Thursday. I got a little bit of a late start today, but the heat block might be magnetic. I believe that's all aluminum. Let me check. I'll just run this over that. I guess I moved we're kind of done with the cam over here. Let's check it out. Let me get a decent angle here, and we'll check the whole thing. We'll check the whole assembly and see if there's anything magnetic. Ah, the Pinda. The Pinda's probably magnetic. All right, let's check it out. I think it's mostly aluminum and brass. So the heat block is completely non-magnetic. Nope, we do have this, the bolt in the back is magnetic. So that might be a problem. But if I hold the magnets down to like the actual level where the print will be, it actually doesn't pull too much, so it might not be an issue. We could super glue it. I think if you'd put a dab of super glue in there, and then just press it in, I think the super glue would bond fast enough that you'd only have to let it sit for a few seconds and then resume the print, and that'll probably be enough so that it won't pull out. So I think it's doable. But like I said, there is that bolt there that's going to be kind of close to the print that is magnetic. Where is it? There it is. Yeah, that's definitely a ferrous bolt, but nothing else is. Nope, just that thing. So I think it's doable. I guess we're going to find out. Yeah, I guess we're going to find out on Thursday, eh? Now that I've said that, I feel like committing. So yeah, we'll try that out. Because I've talked about that several times. So I think it's only fitting that we actually try to do it. But we'll try to do that. I'll basically just take this gear shape. Should I only put one in there? I guess we could do this with regular PLA. So I don't risk wasting some of the little bit of this material I have. So we'll try it with a regular PLA. Because super glue sticks to PLA like crazy. So we'll try some regular PLA. We'll take a gear shape about this size. And I'll have a single cavity in the middle. And we'll try to get one of these magnets in there. Oh, that opens up so many doors. Because I made the... I don't have them down here now, but I made the South Park magnets that Chaos Cortec had designed, and I printed those out at a smaller size and got some like self-adhesive kind of crappy magnets from Walmart, and that would open up so many options, because if you can embed like a strong, like these ones are tiny, but they make them a little bit bigger. I'll see if I can find a little bit bigger one. I used to have some, but I don't know if I do. If you could embed a magnet like this in a little PLA print, you could make some really cool little like refrigerator magnets and stuff. And you wouldn't have that problem. Like we have a stainless steel refrigerator, and like even those cheap like compressed magnets that I got, they have the problem of actually kind of marring the finish of the steel. Like even if you move them a tiny little bit, they can leave little like micro scratches and stuff. And if you'd be able to do like just a standard PLA with a magnet embedded, you wouldn't really have that issue, because the PLA isn't hard enough to really mar the surface. So no, that would be really cool. Plus you would have like a single unit. But I'll have to find some, because you can get rare earth magnets in a nice little, like, maybe 1/4 inch by 1/8 of an inch size, and embed them in a piece maybe a little bit bigger than this, and that'd make a sweet little refrigerator magnet. And you'd have to reinsert your filament. Yeah, I'll do a little bit of reading. We could... Is an M600 the filament change? We could try using like the color print web utility, and we could have it queue for... Or is that what somebody was already saying? We could basically queue like a filament change, which would bring the head to the side, and then not actually change the filament, and just have it like, we'd have to probably repurge and stuff, but yeah, we could do that. I could see that working. Just use the color change command, but don't actually change the color, and that would bring the print head to the side. Because the problem with pausing, if any of you guys have ever done that, when you actually pause a print, it tends to just stop, and it'll leave like globs. I've actually had some prints that were kind of ruined by trying to pause them, because it leaves like a blob, especially on like a perimeter. On the infill, it's not as bad, but even then, on the infill, when you have a blob there, it ends up getting like propagated through the layers above it, because there'll be a little lump there. But okay, Rob. So the M600 is the color change. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Thanks for mentioning that. I think that's a pretty cool way of accomplishing that. Oh, you use Rob said he uses the M600 using Notepad. I haven't actually tried that yet. I just use the color print. If nobody knows what we're talking about, the Prusa MK2 comes with... Well, it doesn't come with it. It's a web utility. But they have a little web utility where you can take G-code and drop it into their little web page and set like specific layer heights for color changes. And it'll actually like insert the M600 command in that layer, and it'll cue a filament change. And it's how you accomplish like multicolor prints with a single extruder head. Or it's one of the ways you can do it. But no, very good idea. Thanks for mentioning that. I think Leonard, I can't see it there. I think Leonard asked... where is it here? I didn't actually check my chat. Does the chat seem to be working? Is it actually moving all the messages over? I was kind of worried about that. I didn't actually get a chance to test it. Oh, Lorenzo, I missed that. Lorenzo asked if I don't have my blue socks on, meaning the silicone sock. I do not. I've actually had some problems with those. One of them is I can try to show you here. One of the problems I had with the socks are the lines coming off of the hot end, and I kind of need to bend mine, and I'm afraid to. But if you can see under here, let me get the camera under. There are these lines that come off of the hot end. They're the red lines, and mine are actually like tight against the heat block right here, and it actually makes it tough to get the sock in. And I kind of need to like bend them, you know, like pull this part in a little further to give me a little bit of excess wire here to arc them out around the corner. But I'm kind of afraid to, because they are... that wire is kind of odd, and I'm kind of afraid of breaking them. I've seen other people like try to bend theirs and have actually like snapped the wire. I do like the sock. It really helps, especially if you do like your PID tuning. If you have the PID tuning set and the sock on, your hot end temperatures are essentially rock solid. Like mine don't even deviate a single degree during the print. But no, that's one of the reasons I haven't used the sock. The other one is that if you have a new sock and you put it on, they fit nicely. But my personal experience has been like if you take them off for a nozzle change and then try to put them back on, they don't seem to fit as tight. And I've had issues with filament actually getting up in between the sock and the hot end. And it gets kind of messy sometimes. If you wear your socks an entire month, they turn into casts. They don't smell too good either. I unfortunately know that from personal experience. Yeah, like Earl said, it just kind of scares me to bend them. I don't know what it is about that wire. It almost strikes me as like a cast metal, and as opposed to like a normal wire material. And it's very kind of grainy, and it looks like it's going to snap very easily. And like I said, I've seen quite a few people that have snapped theirs. So I think it's not really like an irrational fear, unfortunately. Gusner recommended checking Prusa.com, PrusaMK2.com. Is that an unofficial site, or is that the actual Prusa site? How to have success with the E3D silicone boot. I wish, I don't know if there's a way to do it, but I wish it kind of, I don't know, just like slipped on there a little more, like if it went up over the top of the heat block a little bit without like those kind of weird tabs that it has. Yeah, I wish it just like gripped the heat block a little bit better. Because like I said, when they're brand new and you put it on a clean heat block, they stay on fairly well. But as soon as you in my experience, I don't think everyone has this experience, but in my experience, anytime I've messed with them, they just don't seem to fit all that well afterwards. But they're not all that expensive, so I guess you could just have like a ton of them on hand. I think they're like $7 or $8 for 3 of them, plus a little bit for shipping. Oh, okay, it's Scott's site. Okay. Um, yeah, I'll check that out then, Gusner. But yeah, they do help. They do help stabilize the hot end temperature. I would never deny that they do help. It's like I said, especially in combination with like doing a PID tuning, which I'll hopefully have a video up soon. Oh, I shot that video like probably a month ago at this point, and just need to do a couple more shots and some editing, and it'll be ready because it's a simple process, and it's something that a lot of people ask about. But Prusa, it is funny they got PrusaMK2.com. That's one of those domains that, in hindsight, Prusa Research probably should have grabbed up. Yeah. No, but that's a good one. That's a good one for like a fan site. Yes, and like Gusner said, another thing that the socks help with are with the part cooling fan, because the MK2 does have a fairly aggressive part cooling fan. It helps insulate the hot end from that as well. John Vandenbos asked, "Did I set up my FlashAir yet?" No, no, I did not. It's on my short list of things that I absolutely need to do. It's laying. I know you can't see it now, but it's laying over beside my printer. But I definitely need to do that. I want to do that. I don't know if he's here today, but Joseph Tam sent me that like a while ago. He was one of the first guys that kind of sent me anything to the post office box I have, and I was super psyched to get it at the time. But then again, I want to do a video on that. It's a little bit quirky to set up. And I didn't realize at the time that you have to actually go, like, I did everything that was required for the FlashAir. This is a wireless SD card, if nobody knows what we're talking about. It's an SD card that has Wi-Fi integrated into it. There's Joseph. Joseph is here. It's a little quirky to set up, and I went through the process of doing everything required. And, like, I got it to work on my laptop and stuff, but then I couldn't get it to work in the MK2, and it turns out a little bit after that, I found out that you actually have to go into the settings, and it has a setting in there for a FlashAir. But yeah, like John said, I had it working. Yeah, that's all it took me on my laptop. Like in 10 to 20 minutes, I had it working on my laptop. And that was even with pulling the config files up in like a notepad and doing some editing and customizing that wasn't necessary. But yeah, like Aaron said, it natively supports the FlashAir, the MK2. But I just wasn't aware at the time that you have to actually go in to the settings and enable the FlashAir settings. I don't know exactly what that changes. I don't know if there's like just some kind of input that the FlashAir needs from the device it's in to enable the Wi-Fi, but I'm aware of that now. So no, that is on my short list of things as soon as I get some free time that I want to do. Because it is a pain. It is a pain handling SD cards and stuff. But I think it is, yeah, like John just said, I think it is like a power thing. I think when it's not getting, I don't know, something, there's something that it changes. Oh, Aaron said that this was partly due to suggestions. Yeah, I think, like Joseph said, I think there's, again, this is all speculation on my part from the little bit of stuff I read, but I think there's some kind of issue with it essentially powering down the card in some way after a kind of fixed time period. So like it'll work for 5 minutes after you insert it, and then it'll kind of power it down afterwards, and it won't work after that, which kind of defeats the purpose. But apparently, changing that option in the machine itself kind of addresses that. But no, I guess that's kind of it for today, guys. I just wanted to take a little bit of time and test this filament, which I think was successful. I think this is a cool print. Like I said, I love the feel of this. This feels like an actual coin, which is super cool. I wish I had another one. I'll probably print one out here as soon as I get off stream, just so I have a second one to kind of clank them together. But I might actually switch, like I've been using those smaller tokens for the game. I might actually just switch to these big ones. Because it doesn't, like smaller is better because it takes up less space on the table. But overall, yeah, it's a cool filament. You all don't use macaques to swap your SD cards. I don't know. I've mentioned him briefly before. I don't know if you guys are aware of a guy named Carl Pilkington, but that's Carl Pilkington, wherever he is right now, just smiled with that being said. But yeah, thanks guys. Like I said, that's going to be it for today. If you want to stop in and hang out with me again, I'll be streaming Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard. Maybe a little bit before that. I need to get my ass moving in the mornings a little sooner. But yeah, we'll be streaming Thursday. And like I said, I'll have one of these ready. We'll use a standard PLA instead of the metallic. We'll attempt to embed a magnet in a small print and see how that goes. And if the first tests are successful, man, that's going to be a cool technique to have available. Like I said, like dinner or refrigerator magnets are kind of like the low end of the spectrum for cool things you could do with that. But yeah, I think that would open up like a lot of cool options for prints and stuff. Like, oh man, I am excited now. I'm excited to do that. One of the things that I wanted with these small tokens was for them to essentially stack, because in the game you end up like allocating stacks of these to different models to use during the course of the turn. And I had tried actually like, essentially having like a ring on the bottom and then another ring that stuck out on the top, so you could kind of like nest them together and they wouldn't slide all around and stuff. Man, if you could put magnets in these and just have the stacks like magnetized, that is exceptionally cool. That would definitely be the superior way to accomplish that effect. That would be extremely cool. And being that our printers are relatively precise, I guess you'd have to take a little bit of care to make sure that your magnets are oriented the correct way for them to stack with the faces the way you'd want them. But as far as like where the magnet is oriented in the piece, it's going to be very precise. So I would imagine like if you'd have 10 of these and stacked magnetized together, they would line up exceptionally well. Because I could kind of envision, taking a drill and manually, putting a hole in and putting a magnet in and then putting epoxy over it and kind of doing it that way. But that wouldn't be super precise. But I think actually printing them into the pieces, that would be very, very cool. So now that we decided to do that, I'm actually really looking forward to it. But like I said, guys, thanks for hanging out with me. If there's anybody here that hasn't subscribed, consider it. And if you subscribe, consider hitting that bell, and it'll actually give you alerts and stuff for when I'm streaming and release videos, which hopefully there will be some videos here in the future. So, and I kind of want to see if our subscriber alerts worked. I don't know if they did. I think they did earlier. So I guess we did test that, but I just thought it was funny to have my stupid face pop up. If it doesn't amuse anyone else, it at the very least amuses me. But yeah, there we go. It works. Huzzah. Thanks, Leonard. But yeah, it works. Okay, so my time spent yesterday was successful. But like I said, thanks everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me. thanks for being part of my 3D printing experience. It's been a lot of fun. If some of you guys don't have a printer yet, I would suggest getting one. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do, just like coming up with ideas to use different things in different ways and integrate different techniques into like the prints and stuff you do. It's a lot of fun. And that's ignoring all the like practical benefits it has. You know, if you actually need to print things like to sell or replace pieces for crap you have in your house. But it's a very, very cool hobby. Highly recommend it. And I highly recommend the MK2 if you can afford one. But yeah, thanks guys. I'll see you Thursday. Thanks to everybody that supports me on Patreon. Again, I can't believe that, you know, I've had as much support in general as I have. I really appreciate it, and the fact that people are willing to support me on Patreon and allow me to devote more time to streaming and stuff than I would otherwise be able to really does mean a lot. So really appreciate it. So thanks guys. I'll see you Thursday.